South Australia song. South Australia Roud #325 is a sea shanty, also known under such titles as Rolling King and Bound for South Australia. As an original work song, it was sung in a variety of trades, including being used by the wool and later the wheat traders who worked the clipper ships between Australian ports and London. In adapted form, it is now a very popular song among folk music performers that is recorded by many artists and is present in many of today's songbooks. History as a shanty. Information on the age, spread, and practical use of the shanty is relatively sparse. However, the evidence at hand does not suggest there is anything particularly or locally Australian about the song, contrary to how it has become popularly envisioned since the late 20th century. It was first noted by sea music author L.S. Smith, who collected it from a coloured seaman at the home in London and published it in her 1888 collection, The Music of the Waters. The shanty is not mentioned again until the 1900s decade. Patterson 1900 mentions a heaving shanty titled Bound to Western Australia, and the veteran African-American sailor James H. Williams mentioned the song in a 1909 article. In the 1930s or 1940s, a sailor's Snug Harbor, New York, shanty collector William Main Dorflinger recorded veteran sailor William Laurie of Greenock, Scotland, who began a career in sailing ships in the late 1870s. The one verse sung by Laurie was published with tune in Dorflinger's 1951 book. The shanty is not attested in writing again until Lady Parrish's study of the music tradition of Georgia Sea Islanders, published in 1942. In 1946, J.T. Hatfield shared his recollections of a much earlier, 1886 voyage as a passenger travelling from Pensacola to Nice. During this voyage, Hatfield had noted the shanties sung by the crew, who were all black men from Jamaica. This version, which includes both tune and text, includes the unusual phrase, "Hooray, you are lanky," which may have been a mishearing by Hatfield. Another remembered version comes in F.P. Hollow's Chanting Aboard American Ships 1962, in which the author recalls shanties sung aboard the ship Backborough on a trip from Massachusetts to Melbourne, Australia in 1876. A crewmate Dave is said to have taught this to the crew while pumping at the windlass. As no references to the song predate any earlier than the mid-1870s, it may well be that the song was new at the time. Work function and lyrical variations. Smith said it was a capstan shanty, as evidenced by the refrain which indicates, "Heave away, heave away." Parrish found that stevedores hauling heavy timber used the song with the chorus, "Haul away, I'm a rolling king." Lyrics. Like most shanties of this type, South Australia was sung to a flexible combination of customary verses, floating verses from within the general shanty repertoire, and verses improvised in the moment or particular to individual singers. The song was of indefinite length and created by supplying solo verses to a two-part refrain followed by a grand chorus. The following is a sample after Stan Hugo. Solo. "O South Australia is me home course, heave away." Heave away. Solo. South Australia is me home course and we're bound for South Australia. Heave away. "O heave away, you rolling king, we're bound for South Australia." Solo verse couplets documented to have been sung to South Australia include the following from sailors of the 19th century. "I see my wife standing on the quay, the tailors do start as she waves to me. I'll tell you the truth and I'll tell you no lie, if I don't love that girl I hope I may die. And now I'm bound for a foreign strand, with a bottle of whiskey in my hand. I'll drink a glass to the foreign shore and one to the girl that I adore." As a popular song. In the 1940s, South Australia became popular as a camp song, and by the second decade of the 20th century it had been adopted by several college glee clubs. A slightly different version of the song was published by Dorflinger in 1951. English folk revival singer Al Lloyd recorded the song without citing a source on the 1957 album Blow Boys Blow. He used Dorflinger's melody and the phrase "Hear me sing," which are unique to that collection, which Lloyd used for other shanties he performed. The Clancy brothers recorded the song in 1962 in a version similar to Al Lloyd's. Patrick Clancy, one of the Clancy brothers, had edited Lloyd's Blow Boys Blow album, which was released by Tradition Records, a label that Clancy managed. The Clancy brothers rendered Lloyd's phrase "lollop around Cape Horn" as the unintelligible "wallop around Cape Horn." The Clancy brothers version is the most common one sung by folk music and shanty performers. The song has been recorded many times in both traditional and modern arrangements. A traditional Morris dance of the same name is performed to the tune from the style of Adderby. Traditional recordings. at L. Lloyd and Ewan McCall on their 1957 album Blue Boys Blue. L. Lloyd on his 1958 Australian album Across the Western Plains, and on his 1960 UK album Outback Ballads the Clancy Brothers and Tommy Makem on their 1962 album The Boys Wouldn't Leave the Girls Alone. The Seekers on their 1964 UK album The Seekers, also known as Roving with the Seekers. Trevor Lucas on his 1966 Australian album Overland of the Bushwhackers, and Bullock's Bush Band on their 1974 album The Shoe's Dream. Picture Records Sequoias on their 1977 album Live from Scotland Volume 4. Liam Clancy, Robbie O'Connell and Donald Clancy on the 1998 collection of shanties and sea songs Wild and Wasteful. Ocean Epoxy Bogarts on their 2004 album Live and Let Die. Nathan Carter on his 2013 Irish album Where I Wanna Be. The Dubliners recorded the song on several live albums. Modern versions. The Clumsy Lovers on their album Live do rock charged version of the song as the first part of a medley with Let the Sunshine In. The Pugs on their 1987 album If I Should Fall From Grace with God the Wiggles as Bound for South Australia. On their 1992 album Here Comes a Some Church With Us on their album New Tales for Old Chanticleer. On their album Wondrous Love, a folk song collection Gaelic Storm. On their 1999 album Herding Cats Cutthroat Shamrock. On their 2007 album The Wake, Seamus Kennedy on his 2008 album Sailing Ships and Sailing Men Fishermen's Friends. In their 2010 album Port Isaac's Fisherman's Friends. Stan Ugal on a compilation album Classic Maritime Music from Smithsonian Folkways. Johnny Collins on his shanties and songs of the sea. Julian Ferreretto on his 2010 album The Traditional Scottish band Trail West recorded a version for their 2016 album Was Catmastered. Dust Rhinos as a melody with Drunken Sailor on their 2000 album Got Guinness.